Welcome to the Story Apothecary, a podcast filled with healing and medicinal stories. My name is Nana Tomova, and I'm a traditional storyteller and a pharmacist, and stories are medicines which I dispense. In this podcast, you'll find my prescriptions of stories for the body, mind, heart, soul, and for the earth. So I invite you to join me as we enter the healing world of stories together. Hello and welcome. It's been a wee while now since I've recorded a story for this podcast. It's been a lot going on in the background, telling stories live, other things happening, other story endeavours that I'm excited about that I cannot share yet. And I find that it takes me even longer to tell a story these days, especially if it's from a book, as most of them are. I find a story, I read a story, and I find all the things that don't quite make sense. And I usually have to dream on it, think on it, sleep on it, walk with it. And goodness, sometimes it feels very heavy. I came across this story a few years ago, and I was looking for the books, and there is a marker between the pages. I must have read it and thought, oh, something doesn't quite make sense, or I'm not sure about this particular thing, and left it. I think it must have been 2 or 3 years ago. And I came across it again, and I thought, oh, this story needs to be told. It's run from Armenia. Armenia is on the other side of the Black Sea to Bulgaria. They're far away from each other, but the stories make complete sense to me. There's something about them that I feel in my bones, the ones that I've read anyway. The mythology has similarities. The history of the country has also some similarities. And the magic seems to have some similarities. And so this is a really exciting story. And this story seems to have been collected in Armenia by the collector and editor, a woman who did a wonderful job. And she has named all the people, the ordinary people of the country that told the stories. And so it feels appropriate and important to mention the original storyteller of the story. The story was told by Mrs. Akabi Waradian. And there's many stories like it across the world. And it seems in real life too. And it goes like this. There was once a king who had a single daughter. He loved his queen, but the queen passed away from a fever that could not be cured. And so the only thing left to remind him of his wife was his daughter. And he loved her, but his love was crushing. His love was tight like a fist around her, and his fingers could not open. And the girl could hardly breathe. She had no freedom. His love for his daughter was the kind of love where you take a pin and put it in the backbone of a butterfly and moth. The kind of love where the wings are not free to fly, but where you could admire your butterfly or moth. Admire it for its beauty behind the glass cabinet, knowing that it's just for you. It'll always be there and never fly away. He was that kind of a king, possessive, wanting everything for himself, and he would tell his daughter how much he loved her. But that kind of love is unworthy. He never wanted his daughter to marry. She was only a little girl, but he would plan for the future. He wanted to take care of her and have her under his very watchful eye all the time, knowing that nobody else would have her, knowing that she would never leave his sight, never leave his kingdom. He wanted her to remain to be his, in a way that his queen, now departed, could never be. Unresolved grief is a heavy thing. In order to achieve this, of course, he wanted her to know nothing of the world, nothing of life, nothing of nature, and never to love anyone but him. After much thought and deliberation, he needed some help. And so he called his advisor, his trusted advisor, and discussed his problem. Now the advisor, of course, was the advisor of the king. He had been chosen because he was similar to the king, so he didn't question it. He didn't know his right from wrong. He didn't know prison from freedom. And so together they planned an exquisite plan. A beautiful palace would be built by the builders that could do a quick job. They would work 24/7 for gold coin. And this particular beautiful palace will be made on a lonely island in the middle of a lake. That way he was sure that his daughter would know nothing of the world, nothing of life, nothing of nature, nothing of love but his, and most importantly, nothing of marriage. And so it was as the king planned. The word of the king is often final. The girl at that time was only 7. She who had lost a mother, who had lost everything in the world, it seemed to her. She who could not understand her father's possessiveness. She who was too young and too naive to know about twisted love. She who trusted her father. She was to live in the palace that was built entirely for her, only with women servants and one female teacher. It was vastly important. The king had decreed that she knew nothing about men, about the possibility of love, about anything that would endanger his relationship with his daughter, that would take him away. Anybody who went against the rule of the king, the word of the king, would find their shoulders without a head. They were frightened of him. And so the women agreed. What choice did they have? They themselves had children, families to look after. And when the king, as twisted as he might be, said something, if you value your life and value your family, you do it. The king carried out his plan with nothing to stop him. His beautiful palace was built for his daughter, and several female servants and a woman teacher were hired. In the palace there were no windows, so the girl could not see out. Only at the top of the palace there was a round window for the sunlight to come in. It was important. They said to the king, it's important that you give your daughter sunlight. And his love, his twisted love, listened. The girl had no visitors except for her father. who came and saw her for a few hours on a Sunday afternoon. And I spent time talking and listening. He talked the most, and she nodded and smiled politely. She did not dare ask him. She was afraid of him. She did not dare ask questions, and the questions that she could not ask her father, she asked the teacher. She could not go out. The doors of the building were locked, with big, fat padlocks that only the king had. Only he had a key to the outside door, no one else. Only he could control who went in and who went out. Years went by, day by day of the same thing. She would wake up. Her servants would prepare breakfast. She would ask questions of her teacher. Her teacher would answer her questions in the best way, with stories, with songs, with folklore, with history. And so the girl had many stories in her head and in her heart, and she knew many things. And her most treasured thing to do was to look up at that round window at the top of the castle, the palace. She would watch the clouds travel. She thought, they can go anywhere they want. Those clouds are not restricted by stone walls. They can travel anywhere. And she looked at the sun and the sun's warm rays. She thought, I want warmth like this. And although she had blankets and a fire, something in her felt cold, with no love around her. And sometimes she would watch the birds. Sometimes there would be one bird, and then the one bird would become two birds, and the two birds would then become five birds, with three little fledglings around. And curious, she thought, what is going on? And well, a girl, now a young woman whose knowledge had become restricted, whose stories had to be censored, whose information was secretive. Her father had made sure that she knew nothing about men, only of women. And yet her curiosity took the better of her, and she began to ask more questions of her teachers. What kind of life is this? She would ask herself. All my servants are women. Like me, my teacher is a woman, like me. But if there are only girls and women in the world, then what is my father? One morning she was feeling brave. She heard birdsong outside the window. It was springtime. She could smell the blossom of the cherry trees, of the plum trees, and it comforted her. And it made her heart quicken and beat ever so little faster. I'm going to ask you a question, she said. Please, you must tell me the truth. I have no mother, I have no sister, I have no friend. You are everything to me, she said to her teacher. Answer me as a mother, please. Why am I on this island alone? All the people around me are women. You have told me that we are called women. But my father is different. How is that so? What does that mean? The teacher had been told not even to whisper of such matters to her pupil. Or else, the king had said. And so the teacher whispered back, I'm not to think or speak about such things, and neither are you, my girl. Never let your father hear you saying such things, or our lives won't be worth even one para, 1 Turkish coin. But the girl persisted. And the girl's curiosity could not be tamed. You may lock her like a bird in a cage, but you can never lock her mind. You can never lock her curiosity. And so she asked more questions, some not aloud, not out loud. But her mind began to wander here and there, and she found freedom inside her thoughts. She persisted. She persisted asking questions and asking for certain stories to explain this, to explain her life, to explain the world, to explain her injustice. And the teacher, one day after what seemed like months, finally sang some songs and told some stories that began to answer some of her questions. Please don't tell anyone about what you have heard. I beg of you, for my life and for your own. You must keep this a secret. Otherwise your father would know of this, and my life and yours will not be worth living. And the girl began to think about her future. Her dreams became wild and colourful. She began to dream about what might be possible. With the stories and the songs and the folklore, there of course came magic. It was inseparable. It was how things are. You put a load of women together, lock them up, and magic will occur. And so the girl began to ask herself, am I going to spend all my days in this prison? And one day, thinking about all she had learned, thinking about all that she had been taught by her teacher, who was clever and brave and kind, and knew more about love than her father and all his advisors, a teacher who knew about justice, and who knew about fairness, and knew about freedom. She had taught her a great deal. And so one day the girl asked her teacher to go and get her flour and eggs and butter and milk, and she was going to make some dough. Woman's work, sacred work. When you mix all these things together, dough happens, as if by magic. It is magic. She began to knead the dough, knead it as she sang to herself, knead it with all her body. It seemed to move backwards and forwards, and she put all that she had inside that dough. She modelled it in the form of a man, the sort of man that she had dreamed of in her dreams, the sort of man that she had heard stories about, the sort of man that was nothing like her father, the sort of man that had wings like the birds, the sort of man that could travel like the clouds, the sort of man that would let her have her freedom. She drew the features and made the figure of human size. It was a big dough. She used all the magic that she had and all the strength to make the image, and began praying to the skies, praying to the wind, praying to the sun, praying to the spirits, praying to the ground, praying to the gods, to give this image the soul of a human being. I made him with my hands, she said. I drew him with my mind, she whispered. With my tears, I pray that this image may become a human being. I made him with my hands, I drew him with my mind. With my tears, I pray that this image may become a human being. I drew him with my mind, I made him with my hands. With my tears, I pray that this image may become a human being. Over and over, she repeated her prayer. Over and over, she whispered and sang and wept until finally the image was given a soul. She begged her teacher to bring clothes for the man that she had made, and the teacher obeyed. She took some clothes of her husband without him knowing, and secretly she brought them back to the girl that was now a young woman. The girl that had felt feelings in her body that were not familiar to her before, felt the quickening of her heart, that felt heat between her legs, that felt the blush upon her cheeks at the petals of a rose. No one knew of him, of this man made from dough, apart from her and her teacher, who of course helped them. The girl knew what time her father came for his weekly visits, and she made sure that he should never discover her secret. But one particular Sunday, she overslept. They had had a busy night, and she did not wake up on the usual time. And he was tired too, and her teacher, for whatever reason, also slept, and neither of them woke up to the sound of the lock opening as her father turned the key. None of them woke up to the sound of her father climbing the stairs until he was already in the room, and it was too late. Her father was enraged. He who had gone through so much trouble and expense to stop this very thing, he who had done everything he could out of a love for his daughter, he who had given everything, and this is how she repaid him? But going against what he had commanded. How dare she, he thought, and his wrath and his rage took him. It seemed that it took him by the throat and by the chest, that he could no longer breathe, enveloped him like a cloak. And this is the only thing that he thought about. The king took all of them, his beloved daughter, the man made of dough, and the teacher and the servants, and he threw them in prison, and ordered that the boy and the girl be killed immediately. For the teacher that had betrayed him, her death will be slower. And for the servants that had not stopped them, he would make sure that they get no other job anywhere else, and they will be fired, and may they starve on the streets like the homeless dogs. But the girl, she spoke. She had been raised on stories. She had been taught well by her teacher. And so she spoke up. Give us an opportunity to defend ourselves. You are the king. Surely you know of justice. Give us an opportunity to speak. She pleaded with her father. Finally, he relented. He relented because she reminded him how much he said that he loved her. I do love you, he said. I love you dearly, he said to his daughter. This is why I'm doing this for you. She shook her head, but the king finally agreed to listen. A court was assembled, and a guilty young man and young woman were brought before the judge. The princess, as the chief wrongdoer, she spoke first, pleaded her case. She told the truth about what had happened, about the dough that was made. She spoke and told her tale as I have told you, from the beginning to the very end. My father did not want me to ever get married, she said. And so he built me a prison. And he put me in it. His love was tight like a fist. And all my servants and my teacher were women. And I could see my father, who visited me every week on a Sunday, was different. I wanted to live, truly live. I wanted to be free. I wanted to know what love was. And so with my knowledge of magic and of stories and of prayer and of songs, I made the image of man with flour and butter and eggs and milk. I made this image with my own hands. I drew it with my own mind. I kneaded the dough with my own tears. And I prayed to the heavens, into the earth, to grant me a human soul, to grant the dough a human soul. My prayer was answered. My request was granted. My voice was heard. In this man standing beside me, I have made him myself. He has no family. He has no ties. If you kill us, you will commit the greatest crime imaginable. You have had my wish. I have lived. I have loved. And I have been loved. If you kill me, I have no regrets. Is such a thing possible? Asked the court. They're all whispering, all saying, all asking questions of one another. Silence, decreed the king. I will have an investigation made of this. Such a thing is not possible. But the wisest of men came. The wisest of advisers. Those that spoke the language between heaven and earth. The wise women. Those that knew magic. And the investigation revealed that the princess was telling the truth. That the man had no family. And there was no evidence of him ever having been born. The king thought. At night his dreams were vivid. He had night sweats, and he would wake up drenched in the morning. He thought about what he had done. He had built a prison for the one that he had loved, to make sure that he never lost her, like he lost his wife. And now he was going to have her and her lover killed. The nights were the hardest for him. His conscience finally caught up with him. Was it magic, or prayer, or songs, or stories? I cannot tell you. But something happened to that king. He would wake up drenched in sweat every morning, and slowly, the grip upon his fist began to loosen bit by bit. In that cloak of anger and revenge, it became thinner and thinner, until the fabric of revenge and anger was threadbare. What have I done? He would say. I have committed a great crime, he told the court and his daughter finally. I shall try and undo the harm and suffering that I have caused you. I wish that you may live in peace for the rest of your life. And he offered to build her a different palace, one that was not tinged with memories of prison, one that had windows, that looked to the east of the rising sun. He fulfilled his promise. The door to the palace no longer had a key that only he held. The young people, his daughter and her beloved, they lived happily. They lived lives filled with love and freedom, and that, indeed, is a life well lived. If we have love and we have freedom, then we have all the riches in the world. For nature can show the way, the clouds that roam the earth, the warmth and the love of the sun, the bird song that rises the sun into being at every dawn, the petals, the butterfly's wing, the feathers of a bird. That is through the ways of nature that the girl knew about freedom, knew about love, and so it is with nature's ways that her father finally learned about the importance of love and freedom. A woman without her freedom. What a common story that is. Whether it's by the hand of a father, or a husband, or a brother. These stories are found across the world, and it isn't by a coincidence. There are women locked in towers. In this one, she finds her freedom. She has courage to ask the questions that must be asked. She has courage to face the things that are difficult. She finds her voice, and her prayer is answered. But first, before something must be answered, before something must be granted, that wish, that prayer, that longing must be put into words, spoken out loud, named in this world. We must have courage to do that first. And so this story speaks of being censored, of only certain stories being allowed to be told to the young woman. Restrictions put upon her like chains. Whether a person is censored, whether a country is censored, as I think this story also has some political roots, we must ask the questions, as my teacher Shonali has taught me. Ask the right questions. And so with this story, I wish that every one of you finds love and freedom, and share it to someone who is looking for those things. So may they find it in a story first, before they find it in their lives. But this is what stories are for. Have a wonderful month. See you next time. Thanks to In Feathers for this beautiful music, as always.